So getting comfortable, sitting in a comfortable position, and gently closing your eyes or softening your gaze. And bringing your attention inward, breathing in deeply and exhaling and releasing the tension from your body. And we'll do that a few more times, breathing deeply, noticing your body expanding with the breath in, and then letting go of any tension in your body as you exhale. Noticing your body beginning to relax just a bit, feeling a bit heavier. And wherever you are, however you're sitting, just noticing the sounds around you without any judgment. Just noticing the sounds and naming them. Maybe there's birds or a fan. It could be people talking or traffic. Whatever it is that you hear, just noticing it. And then coming back to the breath over and over again. When we hear a sound outside, it tends to capture our thoughts, and often our thoughts will get spun out in some story or a judgment. But we can just notice them and come back to our breath. And maybe doing a body scan from the top of your head downward, relaxing your face muscles in your neck, relaxing your shoulders, and relaxing your arms, hanging heavy at your side or on your lap. Feeling yourself settled in your seat and supported, relaxing your hips and thighs and legs and your feet. Just being where you are right now. And as the thoughts come into your mind, just following the breath, giving your mind something to focus on. Noticing the breath as it enters your nostrils, your lungs expand and contract as you exhale, feeling that warm air on your upper lip. Noticing the natural rhythm as you breathe naturally, the ebb and flow of the breath. And if your mind is busy, you can just name the type of thought you're having and then letting it pass by and come back to your breath and your body. And repeat that as many times as you need to. And now notice how your body feels compared to when we began. Probably have released a lot of tension you may not have even known that you were holding. And your thoughts begin to slow down. Your mind isn't quite so busy. It's easier to follow that natural rhythm of your breath. So again, if there's any outside noises or a busy mind, we just notice that. Name the sound and name the thought without any judgment and come back to the breath. Maybe every once in a while we scan the body for some tension and intentionally let go of that area through our breath work. If you still feel any tension from the day or having trouble settling, just taking a few extra deep breaths. And that helps our mind settle or helps our body settle. It's good to see you all. Thank you for joining. So I'm sitting here meditating with the rest of you. And Homer had to have a small little surgery on his foot today, and I think he's passed out right now. But I heard the squeaking over and over again, and I realized my cat's in here with me, and he snores really loud. And I kept thinking it was Homer crying, but Homer's fine. It's just a snoring kitty. But he does squeak, and maybe I should oil him a little bit. Squeaky guy. Anyway, I'm glad to see you all. Thanks for showing up again tonight. In the last few weeks, we've been talking about the Eightfold Path. We went over the training in the higher wisdom, the path of right view and right thought, or wise view and wise thought, and the ethical path, which is training in the moral discipline, which is right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And then tonight we're going to start the mental discipline, which is right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Tonight I'm going to stick mostly with right effort and mindfulness. And then next week we'll go over mindfulness and concentration. So the mental discipline group, we work with right effort. And we keep in mind that this is less a striving for success. We're in a sense priming the mind to help us be liberated from unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome actions that can bring unhappiness, which is why we follow this Eightfold path, to bring more happiness. So we put effort into noticing wholesome and unwholesome states. Either extreme can cause unbalance or disharmony. So we want to find that balance or that middle way. And when we practice, we want to practice the right way, wisely, not the hard way. We don't want to be too hard on ourselves and have such a disciplined practice that we're not enjoying it. Your practice should not be a chore. It should be something that we develop and enjoy. As we develop it, we're learning more and more about things we can let go of and how to let go of them. So that should be enjoyable, right? Life should get a little bit more simple when we learn how to not take everything quite so seriously. And the Buddha taught that the practice should be like a well-tuned string instrument. If the strings are too loose, they won't play any sound, and if they're too tight, they'll break. So we want to find that middle way and remind ourselves that the practice should be nourishing, not draining. And Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen teacher, said, "The fourfold right effort is nourished by joy and interest. If your practice does not bring you joy, you're not practicing correctly." And that pretty much sums it up. So as the Pali Canon has told us, or I should say recorded in the Pali Canon, the Buddha taught that there are 4 aspects to right effort, and they're real simple. The first being the effort to prevent unwholesome qualities, especially greed and anger and ignorance, and the effort to extinguish unwholesome qualities that have already arisen, which are the opposites of greed, anger, and ignorance. And fourth is the effort to strengthen the wholesome qualities that have already arisen. So we want to practice the ethical conduct of right speech and right action and right livelihood in order to develop wisdom. By practicing how we talk and how we act and how what we do affects others, we're really being conscious and mindful of how we're moving through the world. Is it helpful? Is it positive? To unlearn something we've done for many, many, many years, as you know, is not easy. But that's what right effort is all about. So through this ethical practice, we develop right view or wise understanding and right thought or right intention, the intention behind the thought. And while we move through our day, we remain aware of our speech and aware of our actions and aware of our livelihood. And we practice these with wise effort of being aware of unwholesome and wholesome thoughts and wholesome deeds and actions, and focus on developing those wholesome qualities that arise rather than focusing on the unwholesome ones. So by focusing on something, we're going to develop that. That's the thing that's going to blossom. So that's what we want to do. We want to really focus on anything that adds joy to our life or brings joy to anyone else. So like anything else, the more we consciously practice these steps, the more wisdom we gain. And with wisdom, we learn to let go of the things that cause that unhappiness or the disharmony. And again, we develop the actions and thoughts that create more equanimity and balance. So you can see how these all support each other, which is why in the Eightfold Path there's no step 1 through 8. They support each other. There's a way that the Buddha taught about, moral discipline first, or higher wisdom first, and then we develop that through the moral discipline. So it can get really confusing, but simply remember that there are 3 basic teachings. So all this is a path that can help us more likely walk the path of the middle way rather than get caught in extremes. So summing all that up, we want to look at our habit loops. When something happens, whether it's when we're driving or talking to a neighbor or having an argument with someone we care about, what are our habit loops? How do we respond in that? How do we interact with that? It's very interesting to step back and look at how we interact with those things. When we step back and look at how we interact with all of those things, we clearly see where our faults are. We can clearly see what other route we could have taken. So it's really an interesting practice. And it gets easier and easier to do. The hard part for me is remembering to do it, remembering to be mindful instead of falling back into my old habits. And I've been doing this for quite a while, over 30 years, and I still find myself losing my temper, saying things I later need to apologize for, all those things that humans do. But I don't do it nearly as often as I used to, which gives me quite a bit of hope. So I can tell you that it works, and I'm much happier from practicing this. Just thinking that if I simply watch my speech and watch how I interact with people, I can gain a lot of wisdom and bring that wisdom to me every day. And I can bring that wisdom to every person I meet in the day. So this discipline of right effort is very important because the combination of right effort, right mindfulness, and concentration means we're putting all of these things into action. It means we've rehearsed them so often that we know where the weak spots are and where we need to work and where we're doing okay, and we can keep doing that. So it kind of reinforces itself. It kind of helps me create a new habit loop of catching myself and really thinking about how I want to move forward and then doing that consciously. Mm-hmm. So that does take a lot of effort. It takes intention. It takes a lot of thought. So this is why we practice our mindfulness. Do that meditation. So again, getting comfortable. Either lying down or sitting up. Taking a few deep breaths and exhaling and letting your body settle. Feeling yourself supported in your chair. If you're on a cushion, feeling your legs and seat supported. And if you're sitting in a chair, feeling your feet on the floor. And that added support, that little bit of groundedness that we get from our feet. Now we feel solid and safe. then scanning through our body, noticing any areas that can be released just a bit more, feeling heavier in the seat, sinking deeper into the cushion, keeping our belly soft, our shoulders down, and our jaw muscle is relaxed. Now following the body's natural rhythm with the breath is a natural ebb and flow, and it probably causes some movement to your body. And we notice that when we are aware of these things, we are mindful of any movement, the entire breath in and the entire breath out. And just concentrating on your body for a few moments, noticing any tingling, any physical sensations. Maybe you feel a pulse, or you notice how the floor feels on your feet. Any sensation that you just can kind of tune into a little bit. And just name what it feels like, whether it's firm or soft or cool or warm. And then shifting back to the breath. How is your body breathing naturally? Where do you notice that? Do you notice it more in the belly or in the upper chest? And then just following that breath as the body breathes naturally in and out. Now in regard to our practice with the Eightfold Path, we want to be able to identify our mind states we can bring more consciousness to how we think and move through the day. Now, here's a few mantras that may help with that. May I identify and discourage unwholesome mind states. May I identify and discourage unwholesome mind states. May I nurture wholesome and positive mind states. May I practice nurturing wholesome and positive mind states. May I be kind to myself as I practice working with these mind states. May I be kind to myself as I practice working with these mind states. May I notice how my heart feels when I notice a wholesome mind state. May I notice how my heart feels when I notice a wholesome mind. May I be guided with right view and wise intention. May I be guided with right view and wise intention. May I use my speech with kindness. May I use my speech with kindness. May I be wise in my actions and accept the outcomes. May I be wise in my actions and accept the outcomes. May I be mindful of how my livelihood affects others. May I be mindful of how my livelihood affects others. May I nurture my practice with kindness toward myself. May I nurture my practice with kindness for myself. thank you for meditating with me. I just want to also remind you that this week to just practice. Put the effort into being aware of our actions and how we speak and what we do and what effect that has on other people besides ourselves. And when we bring all this mindfulness to this and this awareness to this practice, we learn so much that we can develop that right view and that right thought and intention. And when you find something that it's not favorable, something you're not really happy with, that's really important. That's a very important point, because that's when we learn, when we know, when we catch it, and we can say, oh, all right, I caught that. Next time I'm going to respond this way. Or if you can catch it before it actually comes out of your mouth, which is not always easy for me, full disclosure, it's even better, because if you can catch it ahead of time and pause and make an intentional decision on how you want to speak and act, that's effort. And that's where we're using that right view and that right thought and intention and putting it into work so that it becomes a really good habit. And that's what we want. We want it to be a new habit loop that creates happiness. So thank you all for being here tonight. Okay. Thanks again. I love you all. Have a great week. Bye-bye.